At 5:15 p.m. on June 28, 1980, a 38-year-old man named Robert Davidson drove his motorcycle down Interstate 74 in Acton, Indiana. On the back of the motorcycle was Robert's wife. Her name was Wanda. The couple was on their way to visit family, and they were hoping to get there as soon as possible because there was a big storm rolling in. Right above them, the sky was turning a dark grey, and so Robert pulled over to the side of the road. There was this sudden flash of light, and then Robert felt pain all throughout his body, and then he crumpled off his bike onto the ground, and everything went black. An ambulance arrived on the scene, and several first responders jumped out, including a woman named Kimberly Cobb. She jumped into action. She felt for a pulse, but he didn't have one. Kimberly knew she maybe had a couple of minutes here to revive Robert, or he was doomed. And so Kimberly, she worked immediately on stabilizing Robert's spine, while one of the other first responders jumped in and began doing CPR. And then a third first responder hopped on the ambulance radio and called in an emergency medical helicopter. Suddenly, out of nowhere, their ambulance just completely shut down. They turned and saw there was this woman dressed in this old, long black dress screaming at them, and she's yelling at them to, "Hey, let me touch him, let me touch him, I can save him." And the first responders are looking at each other like, what is going on here? And Robert basically is clinically dead at this point. This woman in her black dress began praying over Robert and began screaming up at the heavens, demanding they save this man's life. And then it was like something came over this woman. She grabbed her Bible and she lifted it over her head. She's kneeling right beside Robert, and when she opened her mouth and looked up at the sky, it wasn't her voice that came out. It was like another voice, and she began speaking in tongues. And as Kimberly and the others are getting frightened by what they're seeing and are about to step in, it was like the woman just stopped, and she stood up slowly and walked down the road back the direction she came. The ambulance turned back on, and Robert began to breathe. The medical helicopter arrived, Robert, Wanda, and the helicopter took off. That woman in black had to have done something. When the first responders just all kind of looked in the direction where this woman had turned and walked off, she was gone. Now, keep in mind where she had come from. It was just one big open road, and then off to the side of the road was this huge open field. Basically, from their vantage point, they would have seen them. However, Kimberly and the other first responders would quickly learn that big field that lined Interstate 74 used to be the home of a place called the Acton Campground, which was a Methodist community in the 1800s. The members of this community were known for their really loud prayer style and also for speaking in tongues. Now, unfortunately, this community actually burned to the ground in 1864 and then eventually was just abandoned. Some people began to think that the woman in black might have been a ghost of one of these Acton residents from the 1800s who basically was drawn out to save Robert's life. However, since that day in 1980, no one has seen the woman in black.